Hey, Michael here from the Hill Effect. We're just hanging out talking about metal here on Metal Talks, and it's me, Michael, and
This is Peter, also from Halo Effect.
yeah,
Here drinking some coffee and eating some biscuits.
Wonderful. I'm Niklas from also the Halo Effect here at Metal Talks. Coffee, rifflar and Loka.
it's all good.
Metal Talks.
Well, this is cool. This is actually the release day of the album. So finally, the launch of the
Yes.
Unheard is out, which is pretty
Happy
Amazing.
Release Day. Yeah.
yeah. Congratulations to us. and, but it's cool. But it's been in the works for a long time, and then we finished it a long time ago as well. So having it
Yes.
out feels kind of surreal, but extremely cool. And yeah, it's people will say, oh, it's hard to follow up like a first album that was kind of successful in many ways, but I think it was not easy, but at least it felt good, or it felt natural, and kind of like a good continuation of what we started out with the first album. And I've been talking about like how it kind of connects lyrically to the first album, or what kind of is the progression of it. And I think like the first album was about kind of like what it felt like to grow up in Gothenburg, and kind of like and how we met when we were teenagers, kind of thing. That was the inspiration for the first album. Whereas this one is more kind of like, where are we now? Like how do we relate to the world, and how do we kind of go through it in a sensible way, and how difficult it might be to deal with like all the information that is out there, all the influence that is out there, and I'm kind of like looking through it through the prism of the first album when we were teenagers, and now kind of more like in our 20s or something like that. So it's kind of like through the eyes of the children that we have, kind of like in this
in our
same kind of
20s.
no, but I was kind of like thinking for the first album, kind of like when
But
we
that's a
met,
good
we was-
feeling, though.
Yeah, but no. Yeah. no, but,
That's the
no, but the
spirit.
first time I was kind of like, well, what were we like when we were
Yeah.
teenagers, when we first met and started hanging out, and then now with the second one, it's kind of like, okay, but what about like when we were actually growing up and understanding the world, and how difficult it was. So that was kind of like the starting point for me, to kind of draw inspiration from, and kind of like somehow trying to figure out like why and how and for what reason we did this, and how it kind of got so kind of, I don't know, became such a huge part of our lives, overall.
I love hearing you talking about the lyrics because I get the questions all the time.
Yeah.
And I never know. I always say this is how I interpret them. So I love
well,
hearing
well.
you say what you actually write about. It's
Oh, that's cool.
Very,
That
very-
means it-
Kind of
Inspiring.
know when you are given the questions about the lyrics. Kind of, but it's Master Michael got all the information
Yeah,
about
exactly.
but it's also
I always say that this is how I,
that. Yeah.
what I think they're
Yeah.
about. Kind of, so.
but it's also, I mean, it's weird to explain it sometimes, because I mean you put so much effort into writing something that is kind of open to interpretation. Like you want to be able to read. At least that's how I am when I listen to a song or I read a lyric. I go like, "Oh, this is my interpretation of it," and then that
Exactly, yeah.
becomes mine.
Yeah.
Whereas, if I explain like my purpose behind it, then your interpretation is kind of secondary.
Yeah.
So I prefer not to talk too much about it, because it may ruin the experience of
Yeah.
listening to it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when you hear someone talk about a song that you really like, and they say like, "This is the reason behind it," and sometimes that becomes like part of. That's what you think about every time you listen to it.
Yeah.
So it kind of taints it, or it can enhance it as well. But I prefer to have people's own interpretation of it, like firsthand first, and then I can talk about it later. So it's sometimes weird to talk about songs before the album is out, because I want people to listen fresh and kind of make up their own mind about what it's about.
That's good.
Yeah, agreed.
For this one, I think we never did stop write music. We kind of started with the Gateways and Shadow Minds and Feel What I Believe.
Those were the first songs that we
Yeah,
wrote
that-
together. Where we,
that-
yeah.
Yeah.
That's called the first demo. We actually have made 2 demos. Maybe sometime in the future
we should put it out on cassette.
yes, cassette.
Properly. Yeah.
and
Handwritten
Maybe not everybody
covers.
knows what a cassette is.
yeah, exactly. No,
That's how we listen to music in the old days.
and that was a really good flow and a really positive vibe to that. So I think we surfed on top of that because it was so much fun making music. And the funny way with March of the Unheard, I never write music or will ever do again like this, because we had the first show at the Sweden Rock Festival, and the album is like 42 minutes. And what do we do? Shall we?
And the album came out, what was it, like August or something?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
had the
That
show
was
in June.
Yes, this was in
So
June.
no one knew.
And we had one song out, I think.
Or two.
Yeah,
Two.
We had one song come out that day, I think. And that was the second
Something
one.
like
and then we
that.
played the entire album.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who does that? I mean, it's
no one does.
madness, absolute madness.
So in order to stretch out the show a little bit, so I wrote an intro and an outro.
Because they gave us 60 minutes and
Yeah,
we had
they gave
42
it-
minutes of music, so yeah.
So that became actually the beginning of the writing process for March of the Unheard.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that at the time, because we kept the intro
Yeah.
and we kept the outro, and throughout the touring cycle, we kind of liked the intro.
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
end.
we
we
were
were
kind of
dancing
like, yeah.
along. All right, now it's the cue. Let's go on stage.
Good, you know, and
Yeah, so that made me inspiration to kind of write the song March of the Unheard on top of that. So
like continuation of the intro kind of
yes,
thing. Yeah.
yes. And then we kept the outro, which I made a little bit differently with some melodies that runs through the album, that made it like a medley. Putting on some cello from Johannes and violins from Erika, and soaring vocals along with you, Michael, from Julia. And that make an ending of the album. I didn't know it at the time.
No.
I was
Then
starting.
everything in between is
Yes,
is
it's
the
the secondary. No.
But it was weird also, like because for the first time when we wrote so many songs, we had so much material that we had a lot of leftovers. We figured like, okay, we just have to write like a half an album for the second one.
That was the initial.
Yeah, so that was kind of easy. It wasn't kind of like a hurdle. Okay, now we start fresh and we have to write 12 songs or whatever. So we already had half the album in our minds at least.
Yeah.
Then we ended up not using any of the old songs, so we just wrote new stuff. But it was easy to kind of get into because of that. Like it wasn't that kind of like a hurdle of going like, okay, let's start fresh, do everything from the beginning.
That's interesting. You, Peter, have one of your favorite songs that we still got in the bag of songs.
Yes, and I think it's like you said. I've never. It's like every album I've ever been a part of. There's like you always used all the music. So now there's some songs that are leftovers that are really good.
Yeah.
But when you started writing, you kept on writing new stuff, and then we have this one song that
Yes,
I
that we
really
all-
want to release in a special way in the future.
Yeah, exactly. We have some plans.
So it's not songs that are bad. We won't throw them away. We're just gonna
No, but,
revisit them.
but sometimes
Yes.
it's like certain things don't fit onto an album.
Exactly,
like you want an album to be kind of cohesive and fit together and have like a certain kind of progression to it. So yeah,
But
so
I'm really
sometimes
looking forward to that one. That's
me
it's
too.
a very
Yes.
epic song
Yeah,
that
yeah.
if we release it the way that we would like to, it's going to be fantastic.
it's fun.
It's epic.
Yeah. And this is like for album number 3, maybe
No,
or
no,
whatever,
But it's a luxury problem to have. Like
Yeah,
we have
it
too
is.
much, more material than we need. What we talked about like, for the second album, since we already had a lot of songs, so we was kind of like, oh, let's just continue in the same way.
Yeah.
But I think along the way, it kind of progressed and became something else.
But
For me, the difference is just confidence.
yes,
I think
it
we
is,
know
it
what
is.
we're doing now, whereas the first one was kind of like, hey, let's see what happens.
Yeah. And it shows. It's quite interesting. I mean, we've been playing a lot together with live, and we kind of got understanding what the halo effect is, even though we know each other for decades. But this is a new band. This is a new identity, and that shows in the second album. It's more confidence, and you feel strong about it.
Yeah. And
Because
when we
when we
recorded the
first-
first album, we never we didn't rehearse, we didn't play together.
Exactly.
And now after like touring a lot, it's kind of like now we know our strength even better, and we understand what we can do and what kind of works and what feels good, and so I think it was easier in that way. Like going into it, it was kind of like now we know what we're doing, as opposed to the first one where it was kind of like let's set things out, let's see what happens, and trying to figure it out. But
Yeah, because when we were in the studio in the beginning, as far as I remember, we didn't really even know what we were going to sound like.
no, exactly.
Let's just record this and see what happens and how the way that it sounds naturally. That's how we're going to be. Now we know.
We could easily have played gubbrock as Tom Petty or
In a
It's
jazz
very
band
much
kind of way.
AOR inspired, in the beginning. Yeah, for sure. The core kind of idea behind it when we started was let's do something and let's have fun doing it. And it's easy, you know, when you've been doing this for such a long time, like there's all kinds of pressure that is kind of comes from experience and from being in a band for a long, long time. Whereas this was just new, and no one had any expectations or pressure upon us. It was just us writing together. That's it. And we tried to kind of keep it that way as well, not really thinking about what people will think or what record companies, whatever, will think. Just us making music, and that makes it more pure and more fun, for sure. Like you can relax and just enjoy it rather than overthink everything, as I am bound to, I usually do. So this is easier, and kind of like you go with that gut feeling rather than overthink or second guess yourself all the time, which is a nice change.
That's the way we need to
keep it.
Make this Halo music in that environment and just keep it like that.
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing we wrote down when we sat down and talking about forming the band. Like we actually wrote down some key. And the first one was, let's have fun. You know, remember to have fun. You know, the business side, of course, is very important, but the key thing is to have fun together, you know, and that's how it's always should be. But, you know.
I mean, I've been working with Oscar at Create Studios, which is now Studio Bohus. But back then we recorded in Create Studios. I've been working with him 10 to 12 years, something like that. And we connected really, really well. So when we started this out, I was like, hey, you need to meet Oscar Nilsson and just have some recording, have some demo recordings with him. And I guess you guys felt comfortable and good with him.
Oscar is very relaxing to work with. He's very inspiring. You sit there and you play and you laugh, and, you know, he brings out the best of you. Yeah, because that's very important in the whole process, that you feel comfortable with the person recording and producing it. So Oscar is great.
Yeah, and he really digs the music, and he really understands it.
Yes.
So he has every kind of suggestion he has, you instantly you're like, yeah, absolutely, you know what you're talking about. It's nothing. Yeah, nothing is kind of strange to him, and he gets it and understands it. So it makes things very, very easy and comfortable.
Just great. Working with him,
and also we've been there for months and months. Especially during the pandemic, where time was not an issue at all, and we had kind of like we had no record deal, we had no not even a band name. We were just writing songs and just hanging out in the studio trying to figure out what this was, and I think that kind of like started in the best possible way, kind of this relationship with him. And he's great, and now his new studio is fantastic. I can't wait to record there properly next time.
It's difficult. We're just saying it's like we have all these working titles.
No, we're talking about like favorite tracks, but we have the working titles are stronger than the actual titles. So it's the ones that we remember. I barely, I can barely distinguish.
And we talked about it yesterday because I got all the working titles, and you had a list what they're actually called, and it's like, okay, I got to start learning these now. But I think it's difficult to go back now after such a long time to choose a favorite, because the songs that I've been working mostly on is the songs that we've been doing videos for. So yesterday when we had the listening party, it was like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. Yeah, I like that. You know, so
it's crazy because it's been so long since you listen to it like several times every day, because we were like in the mixing process and that kind of stuff, and then you kind of like, oh yeah, now it's done, it's fine. Then you not forget about it, but you kind of take it out of your mind for a couple months. And now we're kind of into it again. And you go like, oh yeah, this song actually turned out really well. So, but there were a few songs that were more difficult than others. I think like March of the Unheard was kind of like, what are we doing here? We had the intro, and we knew that was then like trying to build something from that was it was hard to kind of figure out what that should be. But that was cool. Like, and we at one point we had two different songs. Yeah. All stemmed from the intro, and I wrote kind of lyrics for two different songs, and we had to choose one.
Just I forgot
that's kind of weird.
And I had a different view of it as well, because I was in the middle of it, and we have this writing recording map up and running, and I thought that we should start with the intro as we started the whole shows.
Yeah, and like the start of the album.
Yeah, the start of the album like that, and then March of the Unheard, and then. Mikkel came in and no, we should do it like this, and that twisted my head. Wait a minute, I've been living like maybe that's would be a cool.
But I think that's the coolest thing about Halo Effect. That happens all the time. It's like somebody has an idea and then somebody else come in, and then it's like, okay, it's never like no, it's going to be this way because I thought about it like that. We just talk about every different scenario, and I think it's very cool.
And I think that's part of like having the experience, of course, that we have, like where you can go, like you can 100% trust everybody.
Exactly.
Like you don't have to go like, I think the drum should be this. No, Daniel decides, and it's going to be awesome. We don't have to go like, the bass should be this. No, because it's going to be perfect the way you play it, and Niclas as well. And nobody tells me what to do, so I can just do whatever I want, which is very nice too. And it was fun, like between directions, like one of the songs that is kind of like more epic and has this kind of like orchestral stuff. And like when I heard it first time, it was kind of like a little tiny violin, like recorded like on a a computer version, and nothing else. And I was like. And it's like, is this a verse? Is this what? I have no idea. And I just wrote stuff, and then we kind of constructed a song after that. It was a very strange way to write a song, but it turned out really cool, I think. So that's interesting. You just go like, well, you go with the flow. You go with kind of like your instinct, and you don't kind of question it, and it will. You trust that.
You mold it along the way.
Yeah, you trust the process. You know that it's going to be fine in the end.
I had an intro riff just on guitar, and I thought like, we're kicking with a boom, like Sabotage kind of vibe to it. That's how I seen it. But after a while, I actually had a verse with some clean guitars on top of it.
Yeah.
But then I thought, why not call Johannes and Erika in and make this orchestra big? Yeah. And a little bit like a horror movie, Omen with a kind of vibe to it, Exorcist. And then you got the...
But I heard like
and all the demo, those clean guitars were put away.
Yeah, it also sounded like a folk song, and I was like, what do I do here? Like I have no idea. But you just have to trust it, and then eventually it will be fine. But it's sometimes it's difficult to know what everybody's like kind of intention is, but it's cool that it kind of ends up being something that you may not have planned for, but it becomes very cool anyway.
Yeah.
So we wanted something like that, but also kind of something that is kind of Scandinavian or at least kind of Nordic in a way. So Adrian has this kind of really kind of very symmetrical look to his art, and also it's kind of like a little bit to the occult or something like that, kind of like appealing metal aesthetic. But we also wanted it to be kind of reminiscent of Scandinavian architecture. So we sent him a lot of pictures from like just architecture from Gothenburg. And he used that into his album cover. So he did for the first especially on the second one, he kind of used I sent him pictures of bridges and houses and stuff like that. And he kind of incorporated that into his art. And it's super, super cool. And I'm really happy that we kind of found the right guy to do it, and he's so easy to work with, and he gets it, and it's amazing. And I did this cover 2 years ago or something that he was ready already. It's like, I know exactly what I want this to be, and he pulled it off, and the whole design and everything like that became super cool, I think. And I was so happy to receive the album a couple of weeks ago. It's like, everything works. It looks fantastic. It's the kind of album you want to own and treasure and look through many times, and because there's so much detail and cool things about the cover that I really love. So
and the gatefold, and it sits together perfectly.
All the whole thing, and it's a little bit like a sandwich paper into it as well, which is really cool with some of his art, and kind of like he has this cool kind of symbolic language that I really like. That he kind of, I always send him all the lyrics and all the kind of like the idea for the album, and then he goes like, all right, interesting. And then he starts creating his art, and it just works perfectly, I think.
For me, starting with music was just something I always had around. My grandfather was a musician, so we had pianos and guitars and drums and everything at home all the time, harmonicas, and it was just, natural to pick it up. And then my big brother started playing like more in bands and stuff, which inspired me a lot to actually do what he did. And then all of us lived so close, kind of, so we either you knew each other or you knew somebody who knew somebody, and then as people started playing bands, it was just inspiring to see. And that was I remember growing up certain bands kind of made it, when they went to play in the local youth center. It was like, oh, that's cool. They have a band. They're playing there. I want to do that. And I remember
30 people showed up. That must be awesome.
But there was never any jealousy when people actually made it. It was just inspiring. Every time it's like somebody, oh, that's awesome. I remember first time I saw when At the Gates were on MTV. It's like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's like
95.
I want to do that. In a like again inspiring way, not in a bad way. So I think for me that was it. All your friends played music and or did sports, but most people played music, and you just were inspired by each other.
Yeah. It was for me. It was. I mean, and we all kind of lived in the same area, like south of Gothenburg, and like it was basically like you didn't want to be like everybody else. Like there was like this kind of expectation when you grew up, like this is who you're supposed to be, and this is what you're supposed to do, and this is the kind of work you should go into. And I could never kind of be okay with that. So when kind of music came along, like when I was 14 or 12 or 14 or something like that, it was like heavy metal, and that was kind of like felt rebellious and something that appealed to me more than like what was considered normal or whatever. So kind of latching on to like the subculture of metal, and especially kind of extreme metal later on, was something kind of like an escape from kind of normality. It was not like sometimes you hear about music scenes where it's kind of rebellious, that things are miserable, so I turned to punk rock or stuff like that. It wasn't really that. It was just like it was too convenient or too normal, but which was nice, but not exciting enough. And extreme like thrash metal, death metal, and speed metal, all that stuff, that was exciting, and it was kind of like it spoke about like a different world, or it kind of opened up your kind of horizons, so to speak, to something else. And so I felt like I want to be part of this somehow. Then you pick up a guitar and try to write something. It's just because it was so interesting. And then of course there were a few bands like before At the Gates there was Grotesque, and I went to see them when they rehearsed in like really close to where I live. And I saw like a band playing the kind of music that I only listened to on like my friends' records, and it became real. Like you can actually do this. You can be a band and rehearse and make music. That was mind blowing to me. And then I was like, I want to do this, and that's how it started.
Kind of the same. But I have to mention something that was really, really important for us. I lived a little bit on the other side of the water from you guys.
Yeah, but still very close.
But still very close in Tynnered. It's all about sports, football, ice hockey, handball, a lot of sports. And then you have the youth centers.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was so important. And I think I'm talking for all our generations, where you can just go to the youth center, and in our school it was connected within the school, so everybody was welcome to go there during school time. And it was so easy. You just sign up and you can go down and you can have a go at the electric guitar or a bass or a drum. Hey, you want to form a band? Yeah, we help you. Supportive. And then, hey, we are thinking about having this rock Sunday in November. You want to sign up for a show? I think so. We got 2 songs ready. Yeah, we can do it. We can make it. And then you sign up for that in September. Then you practice once a week, and you hang up with your friends, talked about this show, and you bought 1 album a month because that's what you had money to buy. And then you traded and you recorded on cassette. And all this stuff was very magical.
Yeah.
And I remember on New Year's Eve this year, I had a funny, interesting conversation. I first time meeting this person, who was a little bit older than me. He was a vampire.
Please elaborate.
Anyway, and he was like, I was so into Bathory, Venom, especially Venom, and he told me like, and I do remember this from the older guys. They were coming up with a Welcome to Hell Venom. I just what's that? And they're like, hey, you can't listen to Venom in Sweden. It's it's dangerous music, man. It's really dangerous. He was like sneaking in like this, and that became the myth of Venom. And then all of a sudden we are at this congregation. We had that at school. Damn, I'm talking a lot right now. But we had it for 20 minutes every Thursday, and it was a big aula.
Where you kind of, you kind of, you're supposed to kind of do something, kind of to display something for the other.
Kids. Not us, but the teacher would talk about that. Yeah. And on this particular Thursday, the music teacher was raving. He was so mad. And he put on the overhead and just, and up was King Diamond. God damn, merciful fate. This is Satan's music. You shouldn't listen to this. This is so dangerous. And when you heard from the older guys with a Welcome to Hell cover art, wow. So me and my buddy Kim, who would easily win the shoplifting Olympic Games, went out to Skivfyndet and stole the actual album, Don't Break the Oath, and went home to his place and put it on. And I just got hit by lightning. Yeah. And he didn't understand. What the fuck is this? You can have it. Yeah, that was a starting point. Now I'm talking too much. Yeah.
No, but it's true. I mean, part of the appeal was because it felt forbidden.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and in the 80s there was like this uproar, from parents and kind of like, oh, we don't want our children to be corrupted by this horrible music that talks about the devil and all that stuff, and that's only made us bigger fans of it, and we wanted it even more. You wanted to listen to Wasp.
It's the don't push that button mentality.
No, exactly. It's like, what does this do? No, but it really kind of solidified your kind of identity as well, because like, you're not supposed to listen to this. I want it even more. It's like this forbidden thing.
I'm so happy to have that experience. I mean, album cover, vinyl, Venom. It's dangerous music. You have to sneak it in. Your parents can't see. That vibe. Where is that vibe now?
Yeah. And I feel it's like, and going to school, like where I went to school, like nobody understood metal music, and I had all my like patches and T-shirt and stuff, and they were like, what's wrong with you? Like, what are you into? Like, oh, this is fucking Bathory, and this is this is the kind of stuff, Morbid Angel, and it's like.
And that's so interesting we said it, because what we talked about also for the first record was that we were all kind of outcasts by ourselves. I was the same thing. I'm the only guy who listened to metal in my class. And when it was my turn to play a song, then of course I wanted to play something to shock the others, And then we talked, you had the same experience that you did, and everybody did, and then kind of we met through music anyways as outcasts and formed some sort of alliance, kind of,
I mean, like being like rebellious, like in your teens. Of course, everybody does that, but I think like for us, it kind of, metal was that thing. I remember like I had to go to kind of church, school, whatever. I didn't care at all, but and you're supposed to bring a song to kind of church, play for the other guys. Of course, I chose like the Nuclear Assault song, "Hang the Pope." Obviously, so, that's just
of course
that's who we were.
You had to do it.
Yes. Always. Yeah. But you mentioned the youth centers were so important.
Yes.
And I think I get the question a lot of times, what is it in the water in Sweden? No, it's the youth centers. They don't exist anymore in the same way, but they were everywhere. And we also had these competitions where you could actually play on certain, and we traveled within Gothenburg, did
Rockslaget,
like a semi-tour kind of, and we played on different youth centers, getting to know other musicians and stuff like that.
And it was really encouraged
anymore.
No, it's like it was really encouraged. Like you get to play in front of a medium-sized crowd, and you get like proper equipment and all the stuff. And it was kind of like the only real show you had every year to be part of that. That's how Hammerfall started, for instance.
And it was free. We could borrow all the equipment, and the rehearsal space. You signed up. It's like basically you were paid. The more you rehearsed, the more money you kind of got.
It
was back into the
Studio
to buy like strings and all stuff like that as well. It was super good.
Yeah. And we rehearsed in my parents' garage, and they actually came over to help us kind of like isolate it, make sure it sounded good, and so that our neighbors wouldn't kill us. And that kind of stuff, and it was it was awesome, like that's really beautiful. Really helpful, and it's easy. It was easy to start a band for sure. It was very much encouraged. So that truly helped, and I think I don't know what it looks like nowadays, but it's certainly not.
I think these days it's more of almost like a class. You kind of need to be able to afford it.
Maybe,
days. And I think it's a shame, because
whereas then it was for everybody. Definitely.
Really interesting how Halo Effect was formed, because I have this one version that when Niclas called
depends
me
on
up,
who you
it's
talk to. Yeah.
And then I
exactly.
heard sitting next to Michael, he has his version. So, but I mean, in general, it was Niclas's idea, I'd say, who came up with it.
Basically, don't trust anyone. Like
different
perspectives or versions of the truth.
But we met up at the brewery, you, me, and Daniel, and talked about it. And like I said before, it's like we did some rules. How is this going to be? Let's not, first of all, let's have fun. Let's not fall into any old loopholes kind of that we did or might have done in the past. Let's learn from the experience. And we talked about who do we want to be the singer, and we said Michael, of course, and
sure.
And we talked second guitarist and Jesper, of course, and then it's like I called Michael on the way home, you call Jesper. This is my version.
But
then maybe
no, but it was kind of like I remember, and this was before the pandemic actually. So this is in 19, I think it was. But when we started talking, like we were sitting on a train back from Stockholm back to Gothenburg, and we started talking about albums and music, and kind of like, it would be fun to do something one day. And it's a common conversation you have. You go like, it would be awesome, but obviously you don't really have time. But it feels like a novel idea and an interesting concept, but it never really amounts to anything. But this actually did, and then kind of but and Niclas was kind of like, but I think I have some songs, so let's figure things out. And I was kind of like, and at the time I was just finishing like the last Dr. Willard album Moment, so I was kind of like in a creative mood, and I was kind of like, send anything, and I'm just sitting in the studio singing all the time anyway, so I might as well kind of continue doing that. And it felt really good, and I was kind of let's do something. And then Peter said like, I hear you talked to Niclas about like forming a band. I mean, it's like, what? Really? Okay, wow. And I think we can have Daniel and Jesper too. And then I was kind of like, holy shit, okay, this is too good to be true, and this is going to be fun. So it was easy. But but I guess as I said, like we didn't have any kind of expectation. It was more like, let's do something, see what happens. Which is, it's the way you should start, I think. It would be a different story if we went like, this is going to be this and that. You had kind of all this, world domination plans, whatever. But here we just started because it was kind of like an excuse to hang out as well. Kind of like, let's see what we can do. Have some fun together. Simple.
That was I mean, we had a trip from Stockholm to Gothenburg, and and we hang out the whole trip, and we were talking about this doom sludge scene and road burn festival. And we talked about cool all these bands, all these fussy droney bands. Wow, we got on fire, and then we got home to Gothenburg. Let's do wow, I'll call you.
And that's what I thought. Like when you called me, I was like, let's start a band. It's like, okay, let's do something totally different from anything we've ever done. That would be interesting. But then we didn't.
I think good advice if you want to form a band is practice, of course. Practice, and try and play shows to get the experience in, and don't listen to anybody else. If you have a vision on how you want to sound, just forget about anybody else. What they tell you, you're going to sound like this. No, not unless you feel it yourself. Just do what you want and be persistent.
And rehearsing. Like being together in a room and kind of like play together, like that's
the power.
And it's so important to kind of figure out like what you can do and what you can pull off and what you should sound like, because it's easy nowadays. Like everybody has a home studio, you can record anything, you can do anything, like with a laptop and a microphone and a guitar, be fine. And so it's easy to kind of start a band and write music, but like something that is real is what comes out when you're actually in a room together, cranking the amps and playing. That's when you kind of find your identity as a band. And I think that's usually my advice is just like keep playing until you find your own kind of voice and your own sound, because it's easy to just start something that sounds like everything else, or you go like, I want to sound like this, and then you start a band and then it becomes, I don't know, not your own at first. So to find out and it's because everybody wants to start a band so they can release something and go out. Like, no, give it time.
Give it time, and I
and
think
work at it
also,
first till you find your way.
I think one thing you gotta love what you do. Don't force anything. have fun with it. It doesn't need to be that totally serious. We're gonna domination world and all this. No. You just have fun with it.
Yeah,
and I think the
humble.
rest will come with you.
Yeah.
And as you guys said, found your style and don't be afraid to be a nerd.
No.
Allow you to be a nerd.
Yeah, and go deep into it, and
Yes.
also like it really kind of shows who is passionate and who cares about it when you're in the rehearsal room. Like if you rehearse like 3 times a week or something like that, like who is more dedicated or like passionate about it. Those are the people you stick with, you know.
Yeah.
And it kind of solidifies like a band, you know, instead of just members from different cities, whatever, and you come together like on a Zoom call and stuff like that, and you start a band, and it's totally different vibe. So you need to kind of be there and kind of be present for it.
Yes.
And trust your instincts.
Yeah,
I think a lot of times, and even us, you know, when we revisit the old songs, sometimes the first version is the best, you know. I think if you have a certain way you write or you do, and then you go back and you want to, maybe I should change that. Don't, you know, just trust your instincts.
Yes.
We're starting the first proper headlining tour next week. So
Wednesday in Oslo.
For 15th, 14th?
15th
of January. And the album comes out today and like a week after we're on tour. So it feels pretty cool. And before that, I mean, we've done support tours and we've done festivals, but we only had one album. So it's just like we played everything from that first album. So finally we can play like a proper set because we have more material. And that's very exciting. And so it's going to finally play some new songs and something else to kind of offer. That's going to be very cool. A cool tour together with Pain and Bloody Red Hourglass. It's going to be a really cool package, I think, and a lot of fun.
I mean, we've been, like you said, we played every track on the last album, and we kind of had to, you know, just squeeze it in. Sometimes we had longer sets than we could play, and sometimes we just. But I think the good thing about being headliners, we can actually take our sweet time. We can be on stage and relax, have a little break in between, and just not rush it and just choose from all the songs. So I think we have like 25 songs.
Yeah,
out
and
now.
that
Finally,
started that started quite when we when we started shows the songs for this headline run. Yeah, we got more songs. We want to do them all.
Finally,
throw them in. Yeah.
Before it wasn't a problem at all because we only had like 10 songs.
Let's just play everything.
Let's just do it. So. Yeah, this is going to be cool. Like good, like more variation, I think, in the set, and really excited. Just have to remember everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's a riff salad in my head right now. A lot of stuff to remember.
Then it's, I mean, you make the songs, then you record the songs, and then you master and mix and all this stuff. Now it's the next phase where you actually standing up, playing these songs in front of an audience. And that's where the magic happens. Oh, is this one gonna fly, or how it's gonna be? How it's gonna be? How is the vibe for the new songs? That's what I'm getting curious about.
I'm really curious about that too. Yeah.
So we did choose a set list, and then we're gonna go out and play it and see, if it fits.
It works.
Or maybe we want to change or add something, or we'll see that when the reaction.
It's gonna be kind of like a fluid thing, like during the tour.
Yeah.
Touring is great. I mean, it's something that we've been doing for many years, but now it's, I don't know, like you tend to get more comfortable with it. And back in the day in the 90s, it was not always fun, but it was, you didn't care because you were in your 20s and anything goes. But nowadays it's very convenient. We have like this fantastic crew. We have great people working with us, so it's very easy, so to say, to kind of just focus on the shows and make sure that everything kind of properly works. So I mean, I very much look forward to it.
I mean, but like you said, back in the day, it wasn't always so comfortable, and especially I'd say it's like in the beginning, you went. This is like pre like cell phones and internet almost. We went out, you played a show in the middle of nowhere, and you sat at that venue the entire day waiting for the show. Yes. And then you drank lots of beers, went to bed, woke up in a new city, did the same. And these days it's more like walking around, finding what's around here. Oh, there's a
you're bracing it in another way. I think. I mean, when you think of it, it's just wonderful. One day you are in Berlin, and one day you're in Paris. Yeah, that's beautiful. Let's go out, have a lunch, have a dinner, just embrace it in another way. And then we have done it for so long. We have friends in every city.
Yeah.
It's coming out, and we're hanging out, and we're catching up. And that's the beauty of it,
I think in the beginning, we did a tour in 97 or 8 or something. We had was 3 bands in one bus plus crew. It was like a 3-stories bus. It was called the Submarine. They built like on the second floor. They built an additional sleeping area on top where you had to kind of crawl into. I think like 4 or 5 people slept there.
Yeah.
And I remember we had this French tour manager who was signed on by the booking agent. His name was Alain. Alain was really great, and then he drank, and then he became Alain the Destroyer. And I remember he was up on this 3rd-story place, and he shit himself.
Oh,
remember that?
I did.
And we actually didn't go back into the bus after that. I think we got a new bus, but that's back in the day.
Yeah.
That's how glamorous it was.
Yeah.
We were
It was
22 or something like that. You know,
it was.
This is how it is.
yeah. This
Flames,
is
Borknagar, and Deflesh
Oh.
on that tour. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun until that day.
Yeah, until that day was
Yeah.
But I like our American tour was not really comfortable. That was just
that's right.
2 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
We did a
Showcase.
short tour in East coast of US and Canada.
We had this, what's it called? It's like motorhome kind of.
Yeah, like what's it called?
Like Sprinter or something.
Yeah, like a very small tour bus.
Yeah,
that
without
has no kind
suspension.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not really meant for
People.
No, exactly. It's not fit for humans, basically.
It's like hockey. You're playing ice hockey.
It was like being in a fist fight
Yeah.
every night, because it was just bumpy as all hell, and you actually levitated in your bed because like every bump in the road, like you just take off from your mattress, and so no sleep for 10 days or something like that. That was
took us back to that the submarine tour bus.
Yeah.
Like,
I was trying to read.
No, it just doesn't work. But this is going to be easy though.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, still like it's that uncomfortable touring. But I mean, but the thing is, like it's kind of crazy. Like it's hard to sleep. You're traveling constantly and all that stuff. But the show is always the important stuff. So that 1 hour, 1.5 hours, whatever, that makes up for everything. Like sometimes it could be absolutely miserable, or it could be the best day of your life. But the show is always the highlight. Yeah. Like it doesn't really matter. Like how. Sometimes you travel for, you get up 2 o'clock in the morning just to go to a show that you play at midnight.
Yeah.
And then you sleep for 2 hours just to go home. But it doesn't matter because that show was worth it, you know, and it's, so it has to be like that. Otherwise, you would not do it, basically.
No.
But again, going back to this, the friendship that we have, is like I remember saying or thinking at least, like, there wouldn't be any other people than these guys, that I would share that experience with. It would have been even more horrible if you did it with people you weren't comfortable with. But we know each other, and we became nice anyway.
We can still have fun, like, even though
laughing about it.
It can be except miserable, but we laugh at our misery. All right, this has been Metal Talks. It was very nice, very cool to talk about our new album that comes out today, March of the Unheard. Listen to it, buy it. It's available in all kind of cool physical formats, and we're
on vinyl also.
Yeah, definitely. That's the way. All the vinyl mastering is fantastic. It sounds beautiful. But we're out touring from next week and all over Europe, and we're coming back to Sweden in mid-February.
We play Stockholm the 14th and Gothenburg the 15th of February. So come see us. We'll be not all over, but in a lot of cool places. Yeah,
and during the summer there's a lot of festivals as well. Yeah. So we're going to be all over the place. It's going to be super cool. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.